When one of my friends asked me why I dropped Bocchi the Rock after just one episode, I wrote this back to them. Characters were very tropey and pandering. It was obnoxious. 2 months later, after watching the last episode of the season, I wrote this down on a blank Google Doc. This show makes me want to cry not because of what happens, but because of how it happens. It is so clearly apparent that everyone involved with this project genuinely loved it and were having just as much fun as I was having watching it.
絶対気分いいんだろうな。
A show like this rarely, if ever, comes along. I guess Gurren Lagann is like that and maybe a select few KyoAni shows, but it feels like I've never seen a show before with so much soul to it. Pretty big contrast, yeah? Well, it's even stranger when you consider that Bocchi is one of the most consistent shows out there. It is what it is from start to finish, never changing and never dropping in quality. So why the big shift in opinion? Well, why does anyone ever change their mind? Why does the rule of thirds force me to come up with a filler middle question? Why does Bocchi the Rock have me sitting here contemplating my life choices, particularly when it comes to my favorite hobby? All this and more on the next exciting episode of fucking Bocchi Ball. I'm sorry. Maybe it's the intrinsic fear that comes with making a video about a show people currently care about for once, casting your line out into an endless sea of videos that all say the same things you do, but better and much earlier. Maybe it's the aforementioned passion put into this show, which acts as a double-edged sword, inspiring you to work harder towards personal growth while also feeding inadequacy on those days where you wake up and your body just says, hey, let's be sad today. That sounds like a great idea. Or maybe it's Hattori Goto, the Bochmeister herself, whose mental spirals mirror both the writing process for this video as well as common thought processes that me and millions of other people out there have all the time. Regardless of the reason, I'm not exactly in the same happy, kinda funny, then aggressively sentimental mood I'm usually in for these videos. What's the word? Maybe reflective? It is the new year after all. Yeah, so after writing like 1,000 ideas down for how to go about approaching Bocchi, I never seemed to escape the whole, hey guys, Bocchi was released in last year and grossed $100 million in the first 5 years. The show blends exquisite comedy with good music, and this is my spirit animal, Bocchi the Rock Johnson. Chainsaw Man, I hardly know her. This show is exactly like K-On, but it's actually nothing like it at all. My waifu of choice is NordVPN. Pledge Patreon, please. You get the idea. But then again, this is exactly what I hated about Bocchi when I first watched it. I saw the depressed, anxiety-filled cinnamon roll and thought, fuck that, I graduated middle school, then left. Because clearly this was a show only made to attract those dumb enough to fall for its pandering. But, huge but here puts Sanohara on the screen. If you stick with it, then you realize that you were the stupid guy all along. Because, like I epically foreshadowed a while back, it's about how the story is told. A character physically reprimanding another in a comedic way for doing something stupid is not just a dime a dozen, it's free. Every show does this. But how many of them actually make me laugh because this awful bone-crunching sound plays the second the shot cuts away? Just one, and it's Bocchi. You could apply this to something a little more close to home. YouTube. There are millions of Family Guy funny moments videos out there whether you like it or not. But let's say you find a channel with the best thumbnails, actually decent video quality and editing, and maybe they even picked the 7 or 8 Family Guy clips that are actually funny. That is a diamond in the rough, and you will always come back to it and think fondly of it for that one time they vocoded the Electric Man bit to Gangster's Paradise.
Peanut, I know you're in here. Yes, I am, Lois. But where? Peanut, you shot me.
You can be creative with done-to-death elements in so many ways, too. Maybe a recurring gag where a character has a breakdown can be made new again every time by stepping outside the bounds of 2D animation, perfectly capturing the chaotic thoughts of the character. Maybe a well-placed reference that actually works in context is exactly what you need to endear yourself to the audience. Like, oh, Bocchi is going to quit her job. And rather than just telling you how ecstatic this makes her feel, they show it to you by having her go Super Saiyan. Maybe all you need is just a little visual and auditory creativity to get me to laugh at what was otherwise an unimpressive joke.
ぼっちちゃんからだ。すみません。EDM ガンガンかけてりょうさんとエナジードリンク片手に踊り狂いながらバイトしててください。
This show is both hilarious and a feast for your eyes because there are like 20 of those moments in every single episode. And now we circle back to me as I become upset at myself for not understanding that your own personal flair is what makes a video stand out, not its subject matter. I feel like complacency has messed with the way I do things a little. I keep the same tone and style in every video, assuming that the niche stuff I talk about is enough to make it special. And now, time lapse to like 10 minutes later because I've been sitting here trying and failing to get this point across without talking shit about my past work. I'm very proud of what I've done, but I know I can get better and I want to be better. I've always thought that a strength of mine is self-expression, articulating the way I feel or felt about something and weaving a narrative out of it, filled to the brim with my strange sense of humor and probably a lot of sappy emotional stuff. Is that generic? Yeah, for YouTube nowadays I'd say it is. And the stuff that I really want to talk about in the future? Oh lord. I'm convinced that there isn't a single creator on this platform who hasn't made a video about Metal Gear, Halo, or Team Fortress 2, but somehow, someway, I think I can make it my own. It's examples like Bocchi that make me believe I can do it too. And yes, with every decision you make, your brain will agonize over whether or not it was the right call, because whether you like it or not, nobody cares about the things you do more than you. For example, I thought that for my style of video, appearing on camera would make it easier to, well, express myself. For logistical reasons, you won't be seeing the fruits of this decision for some time, which gives my brain weeks of free reign to question and criticize everything. Like, oh, no way in hell can you acoustically treat a room properly. That green screen isn't big enough and has too many creases. You can't comfortably act in front of a camera because you always assume people are watching you. Even if this all goes off without a hitch, you'll just be a discount Nakey Jakey or internet pit stop. What if people think you're ugly and comment on every video saying stuff like "go to bed, goblin boy"? Don't ask. That was the first insult that popped into my head. It's not even, like, I wrote this at 1:52 p.m. It is not bedtime. To some of you, this might sound like Bocchi time through and through. And honestly, I kind of wish it does because I don't want any of this to be true. But also, I'm being a little overdramatic because I never brought up everything that combats these awful feelings. And because this is still a Bocchi video, I'm explaining it with examples from the show. I found that people who genuinely care about you are great at guiding you towards the right path in spite of whatever the big Dumbo upstairs is telling you. It's a role that we see Kita fulfill for Goto all the time. I love how even when she acts selfishly, she opens doors for Goto that she never would have done herself, like when she turns into form to play at the school festival. She's always seen as the first one to comfort her after she has one of her episodes, even if it's just in the background. And towards the end of the season, she gets so close to her that she teaches a college course about her favorite hiding spots when she's sulking. All of this, mind you, fits perfectly into her new resolve, which she shares with Goto in the last episode, saying she always wants to have her back both in and outside of the band. Ryo also has a great scene where she delivers her iconic, at least to me, line about losing your originality being akin to dying. Again, it's a cliche thing to say, but it's made special to me thanks to how my journey through this show played out. And Nijika is, of course, the spark that ignited the entire band, as she brought in both Ryo and Bocchi. But ultimately, no matter what anyone tells you, it's up to you to physically take those necessary steps forward. No one can do anything for you, they can just help. And what makes Bocchi so likable rather than just a one-dimensional I'm pathetic therefore laugh character is that she does choose to take chances, make mistakes, and whatever else the lady from the Magic School Bus said. She, and I'm sure you've already guessed, me too, live in a world where everything is at least a little bit scary. Talking to a new person, entering a new store, trying a new hobby. Whatever we do, big or small, important or unimportant, brings with it some amount of fear. I think most of us are like that, but I don't know for sure. I'm not a mind doctor. But you don't need to be one to evaluate how important something is to you. For example, I love making videos because I think writing, recording, and editing is fun and I like expressing myself in creative ways. So all that stuff that I thought up about it earlier just stops mattering when it comes time to actually make something happen. Because thankfully, like Bocchi, I've always found that I can recognize when the benefits far outweigh the potential downsides, leading to those euphoric moments of clarity where you just let go and say fuck it. The moral of this story is I think that Bocchi the Rock is worth so much more than the sum of its parts, and I want to be like that too. And now I'm gonna bring up all the stuff that I like about Bocchi that I couldn't fit in the video. The voice actresses are all phenomenal, especially Goto's. I still can't believe the glitch sound effects in this scene were made by Yoshino Aoyama herself. The drunk girl is hilarious, and the select few people I've seen bullying her online need to knock it off. Also, for this last bit to work, I need to make it a post-credits scene, so just letting you know so you don't miss it. 9 out of 10 show, but knowing me, it'll probably be a 10 in 3 weeks. Special thanks to Lucy, Mr. Chocolate Salmon, Silent Secondary, and the rest of my wonderful patrons.
You wanna buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Okay, so, I think that my favorite joke in the whole show is when Bocchi is giving this emotional speech about making friends and having a fun day out with them. Then as the camera cuts to wider shots of her room, we see that she's plastered the picture she took with them all over her wall. And then we get this really creepy laugh, which is just abruptly cut off by the episode ending.
これからもみんなといろんな写真撮っていけたらいいな。